welcome to another episode. My name is Dean Vass. You can find me on X at hashtag Kangas, Instagram hashtag Kangaroos podcast. Tonight, I welcome back Jesse Cardinal to the show. Jesse, you weren't on the other day. Happy birthday for Tuesday. How'd you celebrate?
Well, not with a North Melbourne win. When's the last time we won for my birthday? That would have been nice. Mate, just a quiet dinner. Just nothing too exciting at all. Just the work grind, and just sat there planning out our strategy for list management this week. Copped a fair bit of abuse. I'd had a couple drinks and I decided to throw some names up there and ran with Cooper Harvey instead of Geordie Payne. And I got some backlash on that. But for the people who backlashed me on Dersma, look where he is.
Yeah, look, I did see that, and I didn't even backlash you about Geordie Payne. I'm his number one fan, Jesse. But look, I can certainly understand. I think Cooper Harvey's been okay in the reserves this year. Look, he's been, he's certainly shown a lot more defensive.
I thought so.
Side, yeah. So I can certainly understand it. It's either between him and Geordie Payne. But I guess if you want to see, like, I think Geordie Payne's got long-term future. With Cooper Harvey, we want to see if he's got that AFL ability, if he can make it at that level. So, yeah, it's only fair. I think are you still there, Jesse?
Yeah, mate.
You're back. Oh, the background's gone.
Jeez, it's the backgrounds are losing the plot. That's what happens when you don't pay for features, isn't it?
Exactly right. But we'll move on. The celebration certainly stopped for you after Tuesday. Not much to celebrate as far as your football team goes, like you sort of said. But the club has come under a lot of scrutiny after the last week by the media, in particular David King. Is it justified, Jesse?
Oh, absolutely it is, yeah. That performance on the weekend was extremely disappointing. I was lucky enough to be out, so I got to miss large portions of it just following the score. I went back and caught up with it, because I wanted to see from my own eyes what went wrong, and we just butchered the ball. We were slow. We moved the ball slow. We played 4 key defenders in the stupidest list decision that I've. That's up there with Ben Mackay going forward. That was as stupid as anything David Noble did. I don't know what Clarko was thinking. He must have had a big night, and just I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's getting dementia. I honestly don't know. I don't know why you played 4 key defenders against Sydney. That's bizarre. And we looked. If you're gonna move the ball that slowly and then just hack kick it into the forward line, at least put a third tall down there. We've said that it doesn't make sense. So butchered the ball, slow with the ball. The only tick is Harry Sheezel obviously got in a bit of form, but I mean I do subscribe a little bit to Kane Corns, which is it's all good. You put him in half back, but it is cheaper ball. Now there's a part of me that says. And I think, this was mentioned during the week. He was low on confidence. He was still getting disposals, but his kicking efficiency was down. He got to go down back, got a lot of disposal, and he was really clean with it, 80% disposal efficiency. So I think that gives him confidence. I do not expect him to play down back this week, given that I didn't even list him in the 10 different half-back options that we've got this week when we were talking earlier. Because if he plays down half-back, then I don't know what we're doing. It's like they've oversubscribed. We're too slow down back, so we'll just put every half-backer in the team in there. No, it was disappointing. It was disappointing, and we need to see more effort than that. We need to see a lot more effort than that. I tipped us, and I think I was being a bit hopeful with that, but anything less than a 4-goal loss was completely unacceptable against the Sydney team, who were missing Papley. They were missing key players. Completely unacceptable. And if they show that again this week, with no effort against a good Gold Coast side, sure, but with no effort, there's got to be some questions asked for mine.
Well, I guess the big issue is about how we are playing. Last week was particularly poor in not just skill execution. It's just a lack of dare at the moment, isn't it, Jesse? It's pretty boring. It was pretty boring to watch. It was just chip, slow ball movement, and then turnover. If we keep playing like this, then the Swans won't be the only team that belt us this year.
No, the only time we've looked good this year was patches of the Doggies game, patches of the Crows game, and probably half of the Melbourne game. And if you really look at it in hindsight, everyone jumped on us after the Melbourne game about how great we were. We weren't really that good in that game. Yes, it was really exciting. You get caught up in the emotion. But I think that's more to do with Melbourne being down there with West Coast and Richmond as one of the worst teams in the comp, with none of their players wanting to play for them. So I think it says a lot more about Melbourne than it did about us, and it was a bit of false advertisement as to where we were at, because even in that game we hacked the ball a lot. We didn't have a clear game plan. We didn't have a clear game style, and I think that's the biggest thing that people are criticizing us on, which is, what is our game style? What is our game plan? Is it moving it quickly? Is it run and dash? Is it chip kicking all the way and then panicking and just bombing it long? What's Clarko trying to do? Because at the moment it's just a lot of rubbish in press conferences and a lot of big words. And I'm sure behind the scenes he's being a lot tougher, and selection, it looks like we made some changes. But if we're going to put out that much, if that's our level of standard for the remaining games this year, or at least for the next month, then we've gone backwards in my mind. I know last year was absolutely deplorable, but when I say we've gone backwards, it's because we have a better team now. We're more mature now. There's no excuses for us now not to be competitive. Richmond were competitive. They lost to Brisbane, well, 3-4 goals? They're half their team.
5 goals, but yeah, 5 goals.
Like, if you were a Richmond fan, you win 3 flags, but if you're a Richmond team and you're fan and you're sitting there, you were happy with your effort because you kept cracking in. You absolutely, you saw signs from the kids. There was effort. And in all of Richmond's games this year, to a degree, there has been effort. Yeah. There was, I think it was last week they got absolutely smacked, but every other game, you can at least see the effort from them. And it's not acceptable, especially from our senior players. They've got to really take a look at themselves. I'm not talking about the ones we brought in either. I'm talking about your LDUs and stuff.
No, definitely. I mean, the back line is a talking point, and too much, I feel, is left to Caleb Daniel. I feel like we need some pace back there. I've mentioned the last couple of days, maybe it's worth bringing McKercher to the back line just to be able to break that line. You know, I mean, Clarkson keeps talking about they protect the corridor. We can't get through it. But, I mean, it's because the back line is too slow. We mentioned that in the preseason, Jesse. We have even had concerns there that it felt like too slow. But it is really coming to fruition because teams are pressing high against us and we can't penetrate them. And if we move the ball too slow on this Saturday against Gold Coast, I mean, their press is another level. It's better than the Swans and it's probably better than the Crows. So if we don't move the ball or take any risks or try and break a line, this is going to get ugly, Jesse.
Oh, it is. Look, Gold Coast have been super impressive. We saw what they did with Adelaide against Adelaide on the weekend. You can talk about, free kicks as much as you want. They've been super impressive this year. They look like a team who can go deep. I'm not expecting us to win. Let's just go with that straight off the bat. I'm not expecting us to win. But if we play like we do against Sydney, it's going to be a 20-goal loss. They'll put 100 on us because they can score. They've got good scoring options. We saw that against the Crows. They can definitely score. And they will, if we just let the ball move that quickly and easily, they'll absolutely tear us to shreds.
No, that's exactly right. What do you make? You mentioned the media. What do you make of David King's comments about Alistair Clarkson after the game? He was quite critical of him and pretty much said, "Don't think Kangas fans are stupid by feeding them how good the Swans are, even though they were missing some of their best players. I think their best 8 or close to their best 8 from last year." He's under a gun a little bit, isn't he?
He is because he has a team now that should be showing more signs than it is, and we're just not showing those signs. And he keeps rolling out with it was disappointing, but we're in the game, and that's got tired quickly. And then we've rolled into this one, and he's talked about how they've owned the corridor, but they're they're not the team who lost the grand final. And even if they were, they lost the grand final with 10 goals. They are not a good football team at the moment. They're a decent football team, but they're not top 4. They would lose to any of the top 4 teams at the moment comfortably. So the fact that they were able to embarrass us on a day where a lot of people, neutrals, thought we were a chance is a disgrace. And Clarko's got to he's got to be, look, I don't know if it's a bit of him just thinking he can't be hardline anymore because of everything that's happened, but we need a bit of hardline. If he can't be hardline, then one of the assistant coaches has to be laying it down.
No, well, we're going to talk about team selection soon. There might have been a hardline call there, so hopefully, we want to see a bit more of an attitude, I guess, from him. And sort of just even sort of say, look, we're not good enough. This is not what we want to be. Feed us a little bit of hope, because at the moment he's just sort of saying the teams are too good for us, Jesse.
Oh, that's exactly what he's saying. And even if that's true, you don't say that in a press conference. You've got to be more aggressive at this stage where we've got enough players. There is no excuse with the team that played on the weekend, bar 2 or 3 players, that we should not be a competitive football team. There's just not. There's no excuses at this stage. So we need to get better, and we need to be demanding more of certain players.
No, definitely. I mean, which press conference did you prefer? Jai Simpkin after the game, or Alistair Clarkson?
Oh, Simpkin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
As a
thought that was
fan,
more emotional.
yeah, as a fan, that's what you want to see. You just don't want to see plastic. You want to see raw emotion.
No, definitely. Omar is coming to the chat. Hardiman and Fisher have to be in the starting lineup to help our defence rebound. So, yeah, look, we might as well go to the team changes for this week, Jesse. And an interesting one. Bailey Scott, one of the hardline calls, I guess, out of the team. Has been a bit down. Well, he's obviously been down this year, particularly last week.
Yeah.
Matt Whitlock out of the team probably shouldn't have been picked based on team balance. Robert Hanson Jr., unfortunately, just a couple of quiet weeks. Finn O'Sullivan comes back after illness. Zane Dersma comes into the team, and Zach Fisher to add a bit more run. Are you happy with those changes?
Yeah, I am. I am happy with those changes. I would have loved Tucker out, but we'll get to that. I just saw Jared's question about Will Phil missing out again. I'm just going to I'm going to say one liner on Will Phil because I did watch the VFL game. I watched the whole game, and he was extremely impressive as the main.
He was good.
And we saw in the pre-season when he was the main midfielder up against your LDUs, etc. He looked really dominant. I just think we've completely misused him, and we've decided to roll out players who are a bit lazy in the midfield. Yeah, that's just a part. There is a part of me that would love to see Will Phillips and a Wardlaw in the midfield because at least you get 100% effort every single centre bounce. Some of the other blokes are a bit soft for mine at times, and they're one-way runners. So, look, I do like the changes. Would have liked a couple more, but yeah, look, I like the 3 changes. Whitlock, bit rough, but they sold him for failure. He probably wasn't ready yet. He showed some good signs, but he wasn't ready yet. And they brought him in as a 4th tall defender against Sydney, who are not renowned for their tall forwards. It was one of the bizarre coaching moves I've seen. It was right up there with the stupidest things this club has done in the last 10 years, playing 4 key defenders. And we've done some stupid things. It was beyond belief. 4 key defenders. Really? Like, well, what's the logic behind that? So a bit rough, but good for him to get back to the VFL, get some confidence back up again because he looks dominant at that level and just needs to put on some size and learn against some, more AFL grade forwards who are down there at the moment. Like on the weekend, he would have got to play against a Logan McDonald coming back from injury. That would have been a good experience for him. So, look, it's a learning experience. Bailey Scott was worst on ground on the weekend. That's just factual. Player rating, terrible. He was absolutely terrible. You cannot be getting 5 disposals with someone of his grade. And there are real question marks about him. He's someone who's made our best and fairest as in top 5 a few times in a row. I think that's got more to do with North. People seem to really rate Bailey Scott. I don't think he's anything of an upgrade over your Jamie McMillans or your Sean Atleys. Your real clubmen who put in a decent effort when you're a shit team. I actually don't rate him at all, Bailey Scott, and I don't think he is a future player in a premiership team for North Melbourne. I think he's a one-way runner and he's lazy. So I'm really happy that they dropped him. That was the biggest one for me this week. I don't like the effort he puts in. He plays well when North plays well. A bit like Jaden Stevenson a little bit, but not as immature. I know I'm being a bit rough on him because, he has played some decent games in the past, and I'm not taking that away from him, but it's just not consistent enough. His ball use is just not good enough, and he's just not damaging enough. So he's just someone for mine who runs up and down the field because he's got some fitness, and that's all good and well. But actually, you got to do something with it. And we're talking about a guy who's he's 20,
I'd say it's
23,
24,
24.
20, yeah, something
Yeah,
like that.
so he's been in the comp since he's played 105 games. He's been in there since 2019. He has never averaged over 85 champion data, nothing over 7 player rating. He is an average footballer. He's one of those, and every team has them. That's fine. But he couldn't just keep getting games. He's been pretty average this year. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the wing.
Yeah, last couple of weeks he's certainly been very quiet to say the least. Stinging criticism there, Jesse, but look, fair enough. He could be a player that's a little bit at the crossroads. Obviously, signed a 2-year contract. There was talk last year that he was going to move back north, but apparently there was no interest. This is what I've heard, and this is just on the grapevine. There was no interest from the northern clubs. So,
well, if you're a northern club, if you're a Brisbane or a Gold Coast, he wouldn't get a game for their VFL team.
Look, Gold Coast has got a pretty strong VFL team.
Either of those, he's not playing in their AFL team. He's nowhere near their AFL teams. So, look, I am being pretty stinging because we should be expecting more from someone who's played 105 games. You can't be putting out 5 disposals as a wingman. I mean, it's disgusting. It is actually disgusting in terms of the effort. Well, you've got Dylan Stephens, who we've been really, really critical on. Yeah. At least he gets 18 disposals. Dylan Stephens showed the worst part for mine was Bailey Scott, 5 disposals at 58% kicking efficiency. Dylan Stephens, who's playing the exact same bloody role, 18 disposals, 95%. That's not good enough. Not good enough. And there was probably an opportunity. We've seen Bailey Scott play a bit more of a defensive role in the past. There's a couple of times he's done a bit of a tagging role, if you will. They've got good runners on the outside. There was a great opportunity for them to play a defensive role on those. He didn't really do that.
No, he didn't. I mean, look, we'll talk more about individual players, but there is a stat from Champion Data. I think we talked about this off air. Said that we are the second slowest ball movement team in the competition. Average speed is 100 for teams in the comp, and we go at 75, which is far too slow. We can see, we don't even need that to see that we're moving the ball far too slow at the moment. We don't need those numbers, do we, Jesse?
Oh, no, 100%. It is so obvious to the eye that we are absolute slugs. I mean, we dominated the disposal. Like most of the top, if I go to top disposal getters on the ground, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the top 10 are North Melbourne players. But if I go to meters gained, 1, 2, 3. So how does that work? That says a lot of people are chipping it around, getting cheap ball. We are just too slow. We chip the ball around. We just get super coach stats, pad the stats up, and do nothing with it. And the worst part is we're not methodical chipping. We're just chipping to a bloke who's in a terrible position, who's free, put them under pressure. Although they shouldn't be calling for it, they should actually get off their ass and get into a position that's, going to be damaging.
Proactive.
Yeah. And what happens is we crawl up to the forward line. They flood it, and then they don't even need to flood it because we just kick it as hard as we can, as just randomly scatterfire it into the forward line. It's just it's bad. It is really bad. We talked about Richmond at least had fight in their games, and I can see more of a game plan from a Richmond team that is full of kids than I can from us at the moment. The only team who doesn't have a game plan other than us is West Coast.
Yeah. I mean, look, they've obviously got a new coach and they're working on a few different things. Obviously, a few issues with players. Tim Kelly's been dropped, so they've dropped a big name there as well. But, looking at the stats over the course of the year, Jesse, and this is probably what you're talking about, we are averaging more disposals in Gold Coast, just to compare the two teams. I think we're averaging 384 per game this year. Gold Coast is averaging 358. I think we're 5th in the competition for kicks, 3rd in the competition for handballs. But you look at the meters gained, on average, we're we're 800 metres behind Gold Coast, so we're not pushing
No.
the ball forward.
Well,
No, it's all reactive going backwards.
Well, that's exactly right. We're the third highest team for disposals as a disposal average. So we are the third highest. We are pretty decent when it comes to disposals against. So we're pretty good at keeping the ball off them in comparison. But you are absolutely spot on. When you look at meters gained, we are the second worst team in the competition. So we're third highest for disposals and second worst in the comp. The only one lower than us is Richmond.
Yeah.
And West Coast is above us, and the only other ones, and then there's no one near us. Everyone else is 200 meters ahead. So we're getting a lot of the ball, and we're doing absolutely nothing with it. And yeah, we're going to be better than that. Even our contested possession, which was something we prided ourselves on, we're down. We're second highest in the comp for uncontested possession. This is not how we expect North Melbourne to play. We expect North Melbourne to be the team that we saw against, your Melbourne Collingwood last year. Real contested, win the ball, get the ball out. That's what I want to see. Instead, it is just, crab crawling up the ground. And even from a clearance perspective, we're second best in the comp for centre clearances. What the hell are we doing with it? We're second. What are we doing with the ball if we're second best in the comp? It's just, there's some problems there.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, outside of that 6 minutes against Melbourne the last quarter, we haven't really done too much at centre square, really. So, but yeah, I think it was interesting talking to Ricky. He not caught up with him, but he was at a function, I believe, with Adam Simpson. And he said a lot of your scores during the course of the game come from turnovers. Those clearances, it's not a sustainable method that you're going to get scores from clearances throughout the course of the year. So it sounds like that probably 6 minutes of football against Melbourne is the outlier. Yeah, it's a very
spot
rarity.
on. Most teams score from running off the half back line. And especially this year, this is a really interesting one. I'm going to take a super coach approach to this because a lot of people obviously play it, and you notice trends in there. This year in particular, from a super coach perspective, the back line, the half backers are the ones who are scoring all the points. The game's evolved slightly. This year, more than a lot of years, your half backers are actually doing a lot more drive. You're having like Sinclair, your Whitfields, etc. Like all the dominant players at the moment, from a champion data perspective, are all the ones running it off the half back line, and we don't have one of them.
Well, we may as well talk about that. Now, we've got Finn O'Sullivan come into the team, has been playing on a half-back flank. Zach Fisher has been a rebound defender since he's come to the club. Riley Hardiman is in the team. I've mentioned that maybe I want Colin McKercher, but it doesn't look like he'll go back
Harry
to
Sheasel, they'll probably throw him back down there.
It's this. I mean, you like the changes because they made a statement by dropping Bailey Scott, who's been out of form, which is fair enough. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's a bit of an imbalance as well here, Jesse.
No, there is. They've almost gone too far the other way.
Yeah.
And look, the problem is that Caleb Daniels aren't quick. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, but your Caleb Daniels just aren't quick players. If you look at how we've lined up, so let's go for a lineup against one another thing. Take it with a grain of salt, obviously, because coaches just put people wherever they want. Their forward line is Ben King, Ethan Reid, so tall, Bailey Humphrey, Sam Flanders, Ben Amesworth, Tuke Miller. So they've got two resting midfielders, one small forward, Ben King, who's absolutely in ripping form. I don't know where that came from. And then you've got Bailey Humphrey, who's young talent, really talented. I really rate him, and two talls. Plus, then they've obviously got Jed Walter who can roll in there. So at any time, you can be running three key talls and three genuine smalls in that forward line mix. Our back line is Griffin Logue, Aiden Core, both slow, but that's fine. Those two can go to two of those talls. You've got Charlie Comden, who they'll try and put on the least dangerous to intercept again. I don't know if that's the best thing for the team or not, but we'll park that one. You got Luke McDonald. He'll play on one of their smalls. I don't know who plays on any of their other smalls. Probably Darcy Tucker or your Hardiman, etc. Because none of those on our named backline of Tucker, Daniel, McDonald, Comden, Core, and Logue. I don't know if there's anyone there who would be in the top 100 players in the competition for a sprint. They're not quick.
Yeah.
They're not quick players. That's not what they're renowned for. And that's okay. You can have Caleb Daniel as a distributor by kick, but someone needs to be down there who can run the ball out.
Yeah.
And that has to be, you need someone like a McKercher or a Zach Fisher. It's the reason why I don't necessarily hate Harry Sheasel being down there. It's not ideal, but at least he distributes the ball well. The problem is that everyone else is so incompetent up the ground that it doesn't matter who kicks it to, they're just going to hack it. So if he kind of has to be up the ground and just get his disposal right up the ground. Look, I'm with you. It makes sense for me to put McKercher back because then you've got a distributor who's actually got some okay skills. And then when you need to go more defensive or smaller or lockdown, you play your Hardiman. Fisher's an interesting one for mine. Plays that same role a little bit. McKercher last week, he had 22 disposals. He went pretty high with efficiency. A lot of it was uncontested. A lot of it was in the back line. Where do you think he lined up last week from the eye?
Half forward.
And then drifted all the way back and got most of his ball in the back line. It's an interesting one, isn't it? It's a curious case of he's either playing out of position, as in he's drifting too far down the ground, or he I don't know. That if you're playing as a half forward and you're getting most of your disposal on the back line, something's wrong.
He's almost effectively playing as another midfielder.
Effectively, yeah.
Yeah, but
which is interesting because their stoppage clearances is one of the worst in the competition.
Yeah. Inflatable Cactus come in and give him a wave. Just on Harry Sheasel, look, I don't mind him playing as a sweeper.
No.
But he's no different to, look, he's not going to add run and carry, is he? He doesn't have the pace. He's very one-paced like a Caleb Daniel. He'll give you another skill set. But we need someone that can break a line back there. That's why I keep reiterating, let's get Colin McKercher back there. If Zach Fisher's fit, a bit strange to pick him, I thought, Jesse, only because he didn't play last week in the VFL, coming off a concussion. I thought they might just give him another week. But
it was an interesting one for mine as well because they're picking him off, a 40 disposal game in the VFL in round one and then coming off a concussion. It was a little bit weird for mine. Yeah. The other thing that's going to be really interesting is next week, it's pretty given that Wardlaw will be back in the team next week. So
it's pretty close this week, apparently.
Yeah, so he'll play next week. So a midfielder is going to have to give way, or they're going to have to move someone around to play another midfielder. So that's going to be really interesting how they play that. But this week, they can probably get rid of one of the 55 half-backers we've got this week. So I just don't know how they're going to play all these players in their preferred positions.
Well, I don't even know what half of them are.
That's a really good point. We don't know where these players are going to play on the ground. Can you tell me any other team in the comp where you don't look at a list and go, that's where that person's going to play? Or at least here are some options of where they'll play and you're confident about that? It's pretty rare. We just seem to be throwing spaghetti on the ground and just going, put them there, put them there.
See what sticks. Throwing mud against the wall and see what sticks.
Like I'm all for trying, kids in different positions, etc. But let them actually grow some confidence. Why have we not tried when we're getting demolished, putting McKercher in for a centre bounce as a genuine midfielder?
He hasn't had one this year, has he?
Hasn't had one. Haven't tried him. Be happy to try the same people who are doing nothing with it.
It's pretty interesting. I guess just going on positions. Where does Zane Dersma come into the team? He's been playing midfield. He's not going to play midfield this week.
No, the thing is. Oh, well, I imagine if they did, that would be. I would applaud them for at least giving it a crack for a couple bounces. I'd be okay with him being in there for.
He might get a couple CBAs, yeah.
I doubt it because they're boring, but I wouldn't hate it. Look, he plays forward as a non-pressure of playing forward, which is fine because Robert Henderson Jr. has done nothing for 2 weeks, so he'll be more effective than that from an offensive perspective. But if you think of it from a midfield mix, you're going to have 2 key forwards. You're going to have Zerha, who doesn't lay a tackle and he's lazy, and I'm going back to that one. I said it pre-season. He's not tackled. Yeah. It just frustrates the hell out of me. So we've got him as a medium. Paul Curtis is effectively a medium. He's more, he's a
Lindsay Thomas type. He's not a genuine.
To be fair to him, though, he's a lot. He's been applying good pressure this year, good tackle pressure. So he has been playing a lot more like a small. So kudos to him because he's he's the best player this year for mine of ours. He's been our best player. He's been in ripping form. So you got him down there, and then you've got Constanti, who is hardly going to score, but should be down there to tackle. So I don't hate it, Dersma being down there. He's probably not going to apply that much pressure. It'll be interesting to see how much game time they give him as well. Whether or not they give him, if assuming he plays the whole game and he's not the sub, do they have him? Because then Constanti only gets something like 60% game time.
Yeah.
Like, that's long periods on the bench. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. But at least we know at Dersma he hadn't score. And it would have been nice to have had him in, I know he was injured, but weeks 1, 2, and 3 to see how he went in a team that I thought was playing all right. Who knows what we're going to play like against Gold Coast, given what we put up against Sydney. But assuming we can get back to a level of competitiveness, I actually think Dersma will be quite a weapon.
Yeah. Look, I think I was talking to Ricky about this last night. Where do you think his long-term position is? Even he doesn't know yet. Look, he seems to have come to the club as a half forward that can go for spells for the midfield. But we've got 100 half forwards.
100 midfielders.
Yeah, and 100 midfielders, and we've got a plethora of options. Could he possibly go on a wing, Jesse? He's got good skills.
I can see it. I can see him doing that. Yeah, I think a wing would be an interesting one for him if he can build up the fitness space. Look, he's got exquisite skills. We know that. He's got a great mark. He can kick goals. His goal kicking is generally pretty solid. And he's got some good moves. But you are right. We picked a guy when we had 4,000 midfielders in the team. We took McKercher in that same draft, and we had 4,000. Like, okay, the forward line still had its issues, sure. I understand that. But we were talking about it before we joined air. I've got no issue with us taking Zane Dersma. And people are going to keep comparing it to Watson. I actually don't care about that one. That's irrelevant to me. You could go either way, whatever. The main one that concerns me is that we could have had Josh Caddy with pick 10 or O'Sullivan from the Cats at pick 11. Both of them looked really good at periods this year, especially O'Sullivan for the Cats down back. He looks solid. There was options to get different players. We were talking about it before we joined air. That draft for us was McKercher into Dersma, into Goad, Dawson, and Hardiman. Yeah. And one of them is been getting games this year, and the rest haven't. Injury, take that in, but haven't. Well, you've got other clubs who are playing all of their kids from that draft. It was a good draft, and we're just got to get games into some of these kids.
No, definitely. Any surprise that Will Phillips probably not even emergency this week? Like you mentioned, he was quite good last week, but I thought he might have been on the fringes. And with George Wardlaw probably coming back next week, this probably puts him on the outer even more.
Well, I thought he played a brilliant game in the VFL, and the fact he's not even
particularly second half. Yeah, he really got going.
I think he's done without injuries, unfortunately, because they prefer to play other players who I think they think are a bit more dynamic. But at the end of the day, as I've said, if you make Will Phillips your main midfielder, I actually think that he's impactful by hand. He's defensively minded. I still really rate him. I just don't think that they play him properly. They're sold on playing Powell, LDU, who I think can both be a bit lazy at times and not particularly clean with their disposal, especially this year. I think LDU's down. We can see that. And Powell, I prefer his disposal when he's on the outside than when he's on the inside. So, yeah, how Phillips gets back in, I'm not really sure.
We'll talk about LDU now. There's been a lot of talk about him and his contract worth. 1.4 million over 7 years is the number that's going around. So that's around 10 million. it's obviously been a little bit of a probably up and down year. There's been spells. There's certainly been spells where he's shown what he's capable of. But his disposals per game are down this year from last year. Is he worth that price tag? And do we need more from him, Jesse?
Oh, look, money is irrelevant because we'll front end that deal pretty heavily, and he'll get paid a lot for the next few years, and then it will taper down. I'm not worried about the money, or we'll see how long the deal is and exactly ends up being. But you could not say hand on heart right now that he's worth that contract. No one could. The back end of last year, 100% you could, because he was absolutely a machine, one of the best midfielders in the comp for the last 5 weeks last year. But on current form, you couldn't say he's worth that. Like, you could talk about the guys who were taken around in that draft, your Chera, your Brayshaw. Like, Brayshaw's having a ridiculously good year.
Yeah.
Even Rayner, who went pick 1, has been pretty handy. You got a lot of guys who are contributing. LDU is contributing at the moment, but he should be taking these games with the scruff of the neck. He's meant to be a premium midfield in the competition, and he just doesn't look like that.
No, look, at the end of the day, you still got to pay him that money. If we're not paying him, then what the hell else are we doing? Yeah, you got to pay him on potential that he could be that best midfielder in the competition, or top 3. There's certainly potential there. He could be right up there with Nick Daicos. There's no doubt about it. If we become 100%. A better football team, then he'll become a better player, and he'll be an elite A-grade player. So you have to pay it. I mean, at the end of the day, there's no questions asked about that, is there?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Spot on.
Yeah, because people have been coming, no, don't pay him, let him walk. I go, well, what are we doing with that money then?
Well, that's exactly the thing. The money's irrelevant. It's whether or not it's whether or not you're getting bang for buck out of him for mine. There is a school of thought that says you let him go, take the trade capital, and use it on positions on the ground where we need it because we've got enough midfielders. And there's a little bit of truth to that. I still think him at his best is crucial to us playing well. But he's just got to build up his consistency. It's just easy. Yeah,
it's frustrating at the moment.
It's a real shame that both him and Sheasel, who were in elite form at the end of last year, have been in poor-ish form this year, average form.
But we'll move on. One player that seems to escape the scrutiny is Darcy Tucker.
Oh,
Jesse, I mean, we've picked a number of halfback flankers. I thought he might have been in a bit of trouble this week. I don't think he's been too bad, but he just doesn't add enough to a team. Like, he's a good fringe player. I've mentioned that a number of times, but he seems to be in the best. I think he's one of the first picked each week, Jesse.
I don't know what he's got on Clarko or one of the coaches. I honestly... There's nothing to say about him. I think I said before we joined air, the only players with a worse player rating than him this year was like Whitlock and Hardiman, who played half a game each, and Robert Hansen Jr. Like, he gets 22 disposals and does nothing with it. They're just empty disposals. He's worse than Bailey Scott in terms of output this year. You cannot sell me on a positive about Darcy Tucker. There's none for mine. I hope he doesn't listen, but if he does, well, relegate yourself to the VFL because he's
take one for the team.
You can't tell me that he is offering any more than Hardiman getting a full game would be, or any of the kids. I don't care which kid it is, but anyone in the VFL getting a game over him would be a net positive result.
It's definitely interesting. As Jesse Pinkman will say, hang on, I'll just play the soundbite.
You can't keep getting away with it.
Yeah. So as Jesse Pinkman will say, you can't keep getting away with it, Jesse. So, but no, look. Any other concerns like the forward line? Obviously didn't kick a score last week, but that probably had a lot to do with what was going on up the ground. You've mentioned Zurhaar. There's probably he's certainly had a good game against Melbourne where he kicked 5, I think, and he's kicked 8 or 9 goals this year. But do we need another small down there possibly?
Well, Dersma's down there now, and that's another goal kicking option. I know we talked about it, and obviously I made the slight joke about about Harvey. But look, I would have no issue with Payne or Harvey getting a game. I know that people are going to say, why are you picking Harvey? Both of them offer more than Robert Hansen Jr. for mine. That's just for mine.
At the moment, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I think everyone would agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, but you look, we didn't score on the weekend, but you still had Paul Curtis get 2 goals. And he got 2 goals when not in junk time either. He got them, when we were getting, when we were in it. You had Larky get 2 at the end, so they don't really count. It keeps him ahead on the Coleman, but it don't really count. And Luke Parker played his best game. Can I just say, Luke Parker playing broken ribs. I've had broken ribs, and I slept on the couch for 4 months. How he's playing AFL football with broken ribs is absurd. And he's got better week by week. He was poor to start the year, and we were really critical of him. Like, he looks slow and old. Well, that's because he's got a busted rib. So the fact that he was probably our best midfielder on the weekend is embarrassing.
He was our best player, I felt. He was probably our best player, Jesse.
He probably was. Yeah. And he has a broken rib. So what does that say about half the other guys out there? Yeah, it's embarrassing. If I was him, I would sit everyone down and say, guys, I can hardly breathe here, and I'm leading the team, and the rest of you are doing nothing. So I think
he's playing midfield. He's not hiding in the forward pocket as well. Right in the thick of it.
No. So look, from a goal scoring option, yes, having Dersmer helps a little bit because he can take a grab. So if you bomb it long, at least he can hopefully get the ball. And I actually like his behind the contest crumbing. We saw it a couple of times in some of the goals he'd kicked. There's one that rings to mind, I think, GWS game last year, where ball went to the back of the pack and he kicked it. So he can kick goals and he can crumb the ball, which I think is a positive. So yeah, it adds another option down there. Unless they play Fisher down there, who knows what they're going to do. And again, that's probably a worry in its own right.
Finn O'Sullivan back this week as well. Do you think he goes back to the back line, or with the plethora of backmen that we've got available, do they push him at a half forward on a wing?
What do you think?
I got no idea. I really don't know how they're going to play.
Well, that's the problem. Like, they talked about him being a winger, and then he played one good game at halfback in the reserves.
I think it was a half. Yeah,
and they said, "Oh, hang on, this is what this guy does." He is clever and he does some cool things with it, and he can do a nice spin, but he doesn't have raw pace, which is the problem. We need someone with raw pace coming off that half back line. So I would prefer him on a wing or at half forward, and him and McKercher swap in between those two positions with one another, assuming Fisher's playing at half back or Hardiman's at half back in this model. But yeah, I would play him up the ground because I think he's clever with it. I just don't think he's quick.
No. Look, he's a good user of football generally. Yeah. He's got a good pirouette. He's got line-breaking ability as well. Like, he can, when you're going downhill, he can certainly put the afterburners on a little bit. But he's not a Colin McKercher straight off a standing start.
No.
He'll just break a line and get away from everyone. I still remember that game where he hit up Paul Curtis, where he got the outside on the wing, where Ben Keys was trying to chase him down. And you just put it in the second gear. And that's what we kind of need in the back half, something like that. But, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know if I mentioned this, but Tristan Cherry seems to be grabbing at hamstring a lot. I might have mentioned this off air with you, Jesse, but he seems to be... It
would not shock me if Teagle plays this week.
Do you think it's worth risking him if there is a little minor strain there?
There is a part of me would rather rest him up for Carlton next week. There is a part of me that says we're going to lose. Why bother? But no, in all honesty, you don't want him to get a worse injury and he's out for 6 weeks, because then we're done. Who are you going to play for the next 6 weeks? Teagle? You're not playing Goad because he's not ready.
No,
so
he's
playing. Although he looked good on the weekend. To be fair to him, he looked good on the weekend against another kid. It was
a good second half.
Yeah. It was because I think the Sydney ruck was a kid from the same draft who went around the same mark. So, so that was good. That was a good comparison. He looked good, but it means you're effectively playing Teagle, who I'm okay with playing Teagle for a couple of games. He's fine in the ruck. I am a little bit surprised that they didn't pay a Finbar. What worries me, and I think Kane Corn's got this right to a degree, although he says Jack Darling's been hopeless, which is just not accurate.
No, well, that's not right. Yeah.
But I don't know if I like Jack Darling getting as much. He was okay in the first few games when he was getting some ruck contests when it was like a couple a quarter. But the fact that Tristan was down for large portions of the Sydney game and bits of the Adelaide game, it just blows. He's too old. So someone else has got to go into that ruck. Put a midfielder in there. We've got 7,000 of them. Put Zerha in there. Make him earn his keep. But don't put. I wouldn't be putting Darling in there for more than a couple.
Well, they put Larky there.
And that's beyond stupid. He does an ACL, and everyone tears up their memberships.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised they didn't play a Finbar Maley or something like that, because you play a third tall. It deals with the bombing into the forward line a little bit more. It just makes sense to me.
Yeah,
because then he can ruck, obviously.
Yeah, I think it will happen in a game eventually. Look, I think they'll try the three talls when Finbar gets that opportunity. He's certainly shown signs in the VFL. Like last week, I thought the conditions were very tricky for forwards. They generally are in the VFL because it is an open ground. You're not playing in the indoors of marvels. So, yeah, there's certainly. I don't think he's far away. He's been emergency a few times. But, yeah, look, I think Teakle could do a job for you. I think he's a ruckman more than a forward.
Yeah,
so
but my main problem is that he's probably not going to have the fitness base of a Sherry, so he's actually going to do less rucking, and it means more people are going to have to spend time in there. I don't want Larky in there ever again.
That was bizarre. Yeah. That was throwing mud against the wall and seeing what sticks. But I wasn't getting to kick up the ground, but there's no point risking him. Just leave him in the forward 50.
Oh God, no.
He's one of our most important players anyway. So, yeah, we'll see how we go. Now, I know we're not very confident that we can get a result this week, but if we did, Jesse, who could be a possible match winner? Darcy Tucker.
Oh. Let me bring something up for a second. I did watch the Suns Crows game before I even remember we were watching the Suns. We were playing the Suns this week. I was just watching it. It was a good game. It was a good game as anyone who got to watch it. Fantastic game. Really fun to watch. I'm following the score at the moment, and the Crows are putting a bit of a score on the Cats, so they're which is good to see. But if you look at that game from memory, all of the key forwards put a score on. From the Suns' perspective, from a match winner from ours, who put on a score for the Crows? You had Phil Thorpe kick 5 on them, Walker kick 4, Fogarty kick 3, which is the norm. But that says to me that Larky can put a score on their defence. We probably, or a Darling can probably score. What they did really well is they controlled the Crows' smalls. So if a Paul Curtis or something can get loose, that's a massive positive. But they've been able to lock down pretty well on smalls, is my take from the year. But the talls can get hold of them. They've got a really good defender, and I think Collins. But after that, it drops off a bit of a perch. So from a match winner perspective, look, in all honesty, it has to be Sheasel and it has to be LDU. They have to get back to the form they were at the back end of last year. Those two do that. I think there's enough talent around to be competitive this weekend. The scary one is your Matt Rowers and your Noah Andersons, because
the midfield squad's right.
They didn't play great last week, but they're renowned for tearing us up. They love tearing us up. And if you don't put time into either of them, you're in trouble.
Well, I think Sam Flanders is under the radar. Very good,
coming back from injury. And you got Bailey Humphrey, who I think is really starting to show some signs, playing forward and midfield. You've got Tuke Miller. You've got, I don't even know who plays in their midfield, but...
Well, Tuke Miller's playing more forward.
More forward at the moment, yeah. They're a good team. They're a good team. And it's about time that they're a good team, because they were given 50,000 gifts that we never were given. So the AFL had to stock them up.
Yeah, well, in their defence, I guess they lost a lot of players that left the club.
Look, they had a lot of turnover. They've been terrible since their inception. They're the complete opposite of the GWS Giants. They're a lesson of how not to start up a club. If you're Tassie, you're looking at GWS. You're not looking at Gold Coast, because they've been irrelevant since their birth. This year, at least, they look pretty good. And they've brought in an experienced coach. They've brought in some experienced players, Rioli, etc. And they look a lot more competitive. So they're going to be a good team. I'm keen to see what they can do this year.
Well, even now, I don't mean to disparage what they're doing, but even now, they almost seem irrelevant now, even though they're 4-0. Like, no one seems to care.
No, no. Like it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because like GWS has probably got enough runs on the board with stuff that
Yeah.
they've done that they are relevant. They don't have fans, but they've done enough in terms of making finals on a consistent basis. They've probably they've played in one grand final. They've probably played in 5 prelims, maybe. They lost the one to Collingwood by less than a goal. The one the Doggies less than a goal. They got I went to the game where they played Adelaide and they or Richmond and they lost when Richmond went on to beat Adelaide. So they've been in they've got enough runs on the board and they're playing ridiculously well again. Well, pretty well again this year. Hawthorn got them, but Gold Coast, yeah, until they can actually make a finals and win a game, I think they're going to remain irrelevant. Because you actually need to have a consistent impact on the competition for other people fans to notice you and go, oh, okay, they're actually something I have to think about, regardless if they have no fans or not. Because they don't have fans. They've got less fans than GWS, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, they do, and I think it's the area too, Jesse. I mean, Gold Coast is a touristy town. It's not like I've been there a couple of times.
It's a death zone for sports clubs.
That they wouldn't know one end of the football. They wouldn't even know. You ask anyone there, they wouldn't even know where the football ground is.
No.
So
it is probably worse having a second football team in Queensland than it is in New South Wales, just purely because there's a lot more people in New South Wales. So you're bound to get some people who are keen to watch it. And look, GWS still doesn't have a massive fan base, but I was a GWS member for a few years there, just out of sake of getting finals tickets, and because I wanted to back someone when we were crap as well. But I did that for a few years. I went to the grand final. I was in their cheer squad, sat at the back of the cheer squad. Yeah, I'm not that much of a diehard. I ripped the shirt off at the end and said, "Oh, I'm a North fan." But they actually had they had a little core of passionate people. It was very interesting dynamic. They had a very, very passionate group of people who have jumped on since day one and followed them. I don't know what the Gold Coast has. I don't think they've got a fan. I think they're the families. So they are a plastic club. More plastic than Tassie will ever be. Tassie will be a football club from the start, a proper football club.
No, that should have happened when those two teams came in. It should have been Tassie. Yeah, they should have been Tassie straight away. There's no question.
It's an interesting one. If they had not done the Gold Coast and they had done Tassie and they gave us the same offer that they did Tassie, do you reckon we would have taken it?
Look, it probably would have been more of a possibility. I'm not too sure though.
I could deal with Tassie. I could deal with Tassie. It's not that far away.
No, it's just across the Bass Strait.
No, and they play. You play every second game in Melbourne anyway. It wouldn't be.
Exactly right.
North fans are going to hate me saying that. Make me sound like I want us to be an interstate club. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. I'll put it this way. If us moving to be in the Gold Coast would have meant that we didn't go through the last 5 years of pain and we're actually a more consistent football club who got an academy and you've got your Jed Walters, you're getting all these players just flying through, would you enjoy your football more even though your team is an interstate team? I probably would.
No. Look, the only issue with me was that the AFL were going to take over our board as well.
That was my main concern, was the AFL ownership element.
There's no history here. There's no North Melbourne. You're just doing it for your own thing. So that
was the main one for me. Yeah. That was the main one for me at the time as well. But it's going to be a tough one on the weekend in terms of what we can do to win it. I think we just need to beat them around the contest and we need to get the ball in more methodically because I think they can be scored against.
No, look, and each team turns the ball over. I think we're at 10th in the competition for turnovers and they're probably around the same mark as well. So they will butcher the ball. It's just we just got to make them pay like the Swans did to us last week. And, try and add a bit more dare into that defensive 50 and not just do nothing with it, basically. Just go sideways or backwards. Anyways, in saying all that, Jesse, what's your final prediction?
Gold Coast by 30.
Yeah, look, that's probably the general consensus. If we could probably keep it within 30, we're probably doing okay, Jesse.
You'd be happy within 30. I'd be happy if we lost by less than 30. I know that sounds silly, but after last week, you would take that. If we were competitive and if it was like the Adelaide game, I'd be okay with that. As long as we win with some confidence against Carlton next week, who will probably smash us because at some stage they've got to get their act together. But
they will this week.
and then who we've got? Port Adelaide the week after.
Yeah, over there. So
Yeah, they'll probably get their act together by then.
Well, they're a much different team at home, and yeah, we can't play in Adelaide.
When do we get to play West Coast or Richmond?
Look, I'm not even too sure. So.
Who does the fixture? For God's sake, they should make the bottom three teams from last year play each other in the first 5 rounds.
Yeah, I agree.
Give them all a freebie or a chance.
At least give us some hope. not be 1-4 in the season's gone past.
Like they gave us Bulldogs who just missed out in the 8. They gave us Adelaide who just missed out in the 8, but both of them should be on an upward trajectory. They give us Sydney who won, lost the flag.
Grand final.
It's just it seemed, and then you got Port Adelaide and Carlton, and it's a tough start to the year.
It is, but
not good for the confidence of either the fans or the players.
Yeah, look, the confidence from the supporters is questionable at the moment, Jesse. But look, what can you do? We'll see how we go this week. Any final messages out there, Jesse?
Oh, just put some effort in. That'd be nice.
Yeah, get that pressure rating up above 190. That'll be good. Well, that's all I have for you, Jesse. Thanks so much for coming on tonight on a Thursday. Very different time for you. I'm sure I'll have you back on Monday next week.
Thank you. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah,
well,
hopefully.
maybe, if we don't lose by 100.
Yeah, no, that's but we'll still be back. We'll definitely be back. Thank you to all your listeners as well. We'll be back, like I said, on Monday. Like, subscribe, leave a comment for Jesse. Tell him how good Cooper Harvey is, how he should be getting a game. Tell your mates and whoever about it. That's it from me. Bye for now, and go Roos. Yeah, it's the more we talked about it, the more I was sort of thinking, geez, I don't know how